Last week we began that series of lessons, and as we began that series of lessons, we noted that the tongue is neither inherently good or bad. And that is, it has the potential to be a great blessing. It can impart life. Words that are fitly spoken are invaluable. And yet at the same time, while it has the potential to do good, it can also be full of deadly poison. It also has death within its power. And that controlling the tongue is challenging. It's challenging, we said, for everyone, for old men and old women, for young men and young women. All of those, the subject of the tongue is addressed in the Bible, and there never comes a point in time in which the tongue is completely tamed so that we don't have to keep a bridle on it. And it's a challenge because we have to learn to control what we say, but not just what we say, but when we say it, and not just when we say it and what we say, but how we say it. And so there are a number of variables that have to be controlled with regard to the tongue, and we talked about some principles to use in controlling it. This morning I want to turn our attention to Ephesians 4. As I was studying through a number of passages earlier in the week about the tongue and deciding what particular sin or positive use of the tongue that I wanted to talk about this week, I was struck by the fact that in Ephesians chapter 4 and 5, as the Apostle Paul talks about the new man that we become when we are children of God, that he has a great deal to say about the tongue. What we need to put off and what we need to put on. And so let's draw our attention to that passage, Ephesians 4 through the first part of Ephesians 5 in our study this morning. Let's begin by talking about who this new man is. The Apostle Paul said in the passage that Eli just read for us that we don't live like the world lives, but that we're to put on the new man or the new self. This chapter had begun, Ephesians chapter 4 began by telling us that we need to walk worthy of our calling with which we are called. We have been truly blessed as children of God. We have every spiritual blessing when we are in Christ Jesus. But we need to act in a way that is in keeping with our calling to be children of God. And at least one aspect of walking worthy is leaving the past life behind and then living as a new man. The Bible emphasizes in many different places that when we become a child of God, we're a new creature. Or that we no longer walk like the rest of the Gentiles walk. Or 1 Peter chapter 4 said we spend enough of our past lifetime in doing the will of the Gentiles. So there is a distinct difference in our life before obedience to the gospel, in our life after obedience to the gospel. And this new man, according to Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 17, is one that lives in a way that is different than the world lives. We no longer live like the rest of the Gentiles walk in the futility of their minds. So this new man is a man that is different and distinct from the way that the world